Good. Okay, well, good morning, and we're moving into our open session. Can I get a motion to reconvene in open session? Moved by Jim, seconded by Doug. All those in favor? It's passed unanimously. We're now convened in open session. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the land in which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. Can I ask if any of board members have any declarations of community interest to declare? Seeing none, hearing none. Closed session recommendations, there are none. Consent agenda items 7.1 to 7.12. Are there any items that the board would like to take it off, or could I look for a motion to approve those as a group? Moved by Tony, seconded by Karen Quigley Hobbs. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. If you're moving on to the business horizon, there is none. Correspondence, police service board reports, there is none. Chief of police reports. Where's the chief up there? Is he somewhere?
Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board. Thanks very much. Happy March. Very happy to bring to you several chief of police reports for this month. And I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Fenton, who will walk us through the next few items, 11.1 through to 11.4. Thanks very much.
Good morning, Chair McLean and members of the board. I'm happy to introduce Kirsten Hand, our Director of Finance and Assets. Not that she needs any introduction to this board. Kirsten and her team have worked hard to complete our year-end financial variance report, and it is before you. She has a brief presentation she'll go over to give you the highlights. Before I turn it over to her, I do want to thank Kirsten and her team. As we all know, year-end is a hectic time of year for any finance department, and she and her team have been balancing many competing priorities, and we're still able to get this report done in a timely fashion for the board. So I want to thank her for that, and I'm going to turn over to Kirsten. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'll share my presentation. All right. So just confirming you see the proper presentation view.
Not yet, Kirsten.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me do this again. All right. I think you're good now. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So we have our 2024 actuals information to provide to you today. For the operating budget, we closed the year with a $785K surplus that represented 0.3% of the total budget, which is fairly consistent with the last number of years. In accordance with the reserve policy that has been transferred to the general reserve, we will be coming to the board likely in the May timeframe with the reserve report, which will provide further information on reserve balances, target balances, and recommendations to inform the 2026 budget process in terms of reserve contributions. From a staffing perspective, we were over budget by 1.3 million. A number of items that contributed to that was a under budget on the full-time and part-time perspective. That was due to unpaid leaves, such as maternity and paternity, and staffing levels being below authorized levels at certain points of the year. Although I will note that we were at authorized November 1st and slightly above December, at the end of December. Overtime levels were over budget. Hours increased over the prior year by 3%. With 92% of that being in the neighborhood policing divisions. Our internal overtime working group has been working hard to look at actions to mitigate that And at certain times throughout the year, our overtime hours were approaching 40% increase over the prior year. So a lot of good actions and work was done by that committee to reduce those levels to the end of the year. And lastly, benefits was slightly over budget. For operating expenses, some items that were over budget include small equipment. So this would include items where our ESCO police partners request purchases outside of the budget. So we pay for those and then bill those back, as well as additional grants that were not included within the budget originally. We did see higher fleet maintenance costs. And lastly, consistent with our voice radio and ESCO police cost recovery models, the surpluses realized in those areas were transferred to reserves at year end. Some areas that were under budget include materials and supplies, including fuel costs, uniform costs, communication costs, some of that being related to the next generation 911 delay in expenditures. And lastly, meetings, training, and conference expenses. For revenue, we were greater than budget for our volume of record check sales, as well as that cost recovery that I mentioned earlier on applicable expenses, such as ESCO police, non-budgeted expenses, and or new cost recovery items. For grants, we were greater than budget as well. We saw higher court security and prisoner transportation upload funding than originally anticipated. We also saw some new grants and secondments. As mentioned earlier, ESCO police did spend some items outside of budget, so we recovered for those. And lastly, under budget was our ESCO fire, which related also to a staff vacancy, as well as a delay in the NG 911. For capital, we spent $18.2 million, or 55% of the budget, and are carrying forward $14.5 million. This resulted in savings or budget not carried forward or spent of just over $300K. For fleet, 66 vehicles were purchased. 64 of those were replacement of vehicles, and 2 were expansion vehicles to support growth. To touch upon a couple of the information projects, our asset management and evidence management system that was implemented at Central in 2023, and we had some small expenditures in 2024 just to complete that. The asset management, which is essentially pooled assets such as radios and CEWs, and a automated system for that will be implemented at North Division. So we carried forward funds to 2025 for that. And for the evidence management automated locker solution, that will be implemented at South. We started the replacement of fingerprinting hardware and software. This is an ESCO project, so we received cost recovery from the police services for their applicable portions. That began in 2024, and we have funds carried forward to 2025 to complete that. The Human Resource Information System, Phase 1 was implemented in 2024, which included major modules such as payroll, recruiting, and time and attendance. And Phase 2 is implementing right as we speak this month, which will look at further modules such as recruiting, performance management. Body-worn and in-car video was implemented at South Division in 2024. Administrative phone system, that was replaced earlier. However, they implemented some voice radio capabilities on that in 2024, and we continue to expand video conferencing capabilities in our facilities. Next generation 911, that was to be completed by March of 2025. However, recently the CRTC has extended those deadlines for a number of years. So we did see some delay in expenditures as compared to budget that are going to be flowing into 2025. We did receive quite significant grants to fund this project, as well as this is an ESCO related project. So we received cost recovery from our ESCO police and fire partners for that. For facilities, the new central division, we moved in 2023. However, there was some follow-up expenditures in 2025 related to that. As you recall in previous reports, that project was expected to be overspent by 2.2 million. 1.5 of that was recognized in 2023. So the remaining 800K was recognized in 2024. We had budgeted an additional 400K in 2024 to implement solar panels on that building. They were not yet complete, so we did carry forward the remaining monies, which was related to 330K to 2025 to complete that project. The backup public safety communication center that was built on the 3rd floor, it was recently completed. However, a lot of the work was also done in 2024. We also took advantage of the Next Generation 911 grant funding. So you will see that it did look like we spent more than budget. However, that was fully funded by the grant for items that were needed to support the NG 911 implementation. The electric vehicle charging station, an employer vehicle station, was implemented at North Division to support our e-vehicle pilot. There already is a public station available for employees and the public there. And we carried forward funds to 2025 to implement a employer station at Central and a public/employee station at SEP. The magazine explosive storage project, that was to move that storage from out of the region to inside the region, was completed. We continued with security enhancements, including replacing our out-of-life card access system and implementing other items such as visitor management. The facilities master plan was completed, which informed the 2026 project. And lastly, we did see some funds expended for our public safety communication center. I will note that the RFP concluded this year for the design consultant, and the vendor that was awarded that design was Dialogue. So that concludes an overview of the 2024 actuals, if there are any questions.
The presentation, questions from the board? Just one question. I think I figured it out, but in the capital side, Kirsten, is UPS, is that the UPS replacement? Is that a backup power system? What is that?
Yeah, so that's the uninterrupted power supply. And so that is planned for both our investigative service and our South divisions, and it's to bolster existing UPS capabilities. And it essentially, if we lose power, bridges you until a generator can be up and running. Now, those were delayed because there is also a generator replacement project under facilities renewal at South and HQ that was budgeted for. It has been deferred or carried forward into 2025. And if you drove to the back of our building today, you'd see all sorts of fencing. And so those projects are up and running now. They wanted to finish the generator projects before they did the UPSs. So that one has been delayed and carried forward.
Okay, and on the operating budget, good job, 0.3% in terms of the surplus. That's excellent job. On the capital side, if I go through the list, there's renovations at Central and North and South. Renovations here at Maple Grove that we're already planning and haven't quite got started with the Public Safety and Communications Center. All of these things are in planning and progress. We just we're not expending the dollars. So it's not, of that, I think it was $14 million. It's all in planning. It's just it becomes a timing issue for when those things are going to happen, but they're all required to happen. They're in planning. Presumably starting in our next fiscal year, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We were very exhaustive when we reviewed the capital projects, and if funds were not required and or there was not sufficient plans to implement the next year, we did not carry those funds forward.
Okay, excellent. That's helpful. Just, we've had a lot on the go and opening up the new central division, et cetera. I mean, it's hard to get all these things going, but good to know that the planning's in place so that the money is going to be put to use in the next window, next year window. Okay, any other further questions? Do we need a motion here? Or is this just for information?
No, it's just for.
Just for everybody. Okay, thank you so much. Very helpful update. Thanks for your time this morning. Okay, moving on, is 11.12, which is quarterly use of force statistical reports for Q4 and annual for 24. I think we've got Inspector Lewis and Mr. Hassan. Chief, you want to start off, or who's starting us off here?
I can kick that off again, Chair McLean. Good morning again to you and members of the board. You'll be familiar with our regular quarterly reporting on use of force statistics. Today, I'm happy to introduce Inspector Eddie Lewis and Dr. Hassan Siddiqui, who will go over our 2024 Q4 report on use of force statistics, which includes an analysis of race-based and identity-based data that was available as part of our ongoing commitment to transparency and accountability to the board and our community. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Eddie and Hassan, who've got a brief presentation to go over the highlights.
Thank you, Deputy. Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board, Chief Cole, and I believe I see Chief Davis there as well. Friend Hassan is showing the PowerPoint. Thank you very much, sir. I will start, if you want to move right to the second slide, please. The current presentation covers data from use of force reports provided for Q4 of 2024. For my portion will be from October the 1st to December the 31st. December the 31st. I believe Hassan will be covering the entire year in the race-based data. In this presentation, we will talk about reportable incidents. Reminder that these incidents incidents that require use of force reports come as a result of legislation or WRPS procedure. Reportable incidents may generate several use of force reports, one for each officer. And then just a reminder that those use of force reports are subject to 3 layers of scrutiny within the platoon by the senior leader at the division and then within the training branch. We'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you. In Q4 of 2024, you can see that there were 83,690 occurrences. Of those, there were 3,721 arrests. We did see that there was use of force reports slightly decreased from 113 to 111. The number of modernized use of force reports has increased slightly from 186 in Q3 to 198 in Q4. I think it's important to recognize that the proportion of police interactions involving force did stay the same, and that was at 0.1%. Next slide. Thank you very much. In 2024, you'll see that 73% of use of force incidents were initiated by citizen-generated calls for service. 15% of the use of force incidents involve the execution of a warrant. As a reminder, a full incident by incident summary, if you can see on the bottom of the screen there, will be captured in the Appendix C of this report. Next, thank you. For incident types resulting in use of force report, this graph depicts the number of use of force reports, number of use of force reportable incidents separated by incident type. You can see on the far right of the screen that through all quarters of the year, the most common type of incident represented in use of force incidents was weapons calls. Thank you, Hassan. Excellent. And moving to use of force options. In Q4 relative to Q3, there were fewer incidents that involved handgun or rifle being drawn or pointed. There were also fewer incidents involving the use of OC spray. Go to the next one already. Yeah, thank you. CEW use. Again, just a quick little bit of information to be able to share on this slide. In Q4, relative to Q3, there were fewer incidents involving a CEW being pointed. Next slide. I think this is my last slide before I turn it over. Summary of injuries. There were in Q4, there were 7 minor injuries that were reported. Again, as a reminder, minor injuries refer to any injury where a subject received treatment but is not admitted to hospital. Those can include abrasions, stitches, even puncture wounds. There were no major injuries to subjects or to officers in Q4. Now we'll turn it over to Hassan.
Thank you so much, Inspector Lewis. Thank you, Deputy Chief, Chair McLean, and members of the board for the opportunity to present to you as always. In Q4, there were 14 perceived Black individuals in use of force incidents. This corresponds to 17% of all individuals. White individuals were again the most represented group in use of force incidents in Q4, totaling 55 individuals, which represents 67% of all individuals. So moving forward from this slide, we'll be looking at annual data. Black individuals were overrepresented in 2024 use of force incidents by a factor of 3.83 relative to 3.19 in 2023. Middle Eastern individuals were overrepresented in 2024 use of force incidents by a factor of 2.33 relative to 2 in 2023. And Latino individuals were also overrepresented in 2024 use of force incidents by a factor of 1.82. So we'll now move on to our enforcement action benchmarking strategy. Here we're going to dig deeper into the data by looking at specific incident types within use of force incidents. What we observed was that different groups were overrepresented for specific rationales. For the sake of time, we will focus on Black and Middle Eastern individuals, for they have the most incidents represented within the data. But a full description of all overrepresentations for all incident types is available in the report. Black individuals, relative to white individuals, were overrepresented in use of force incidents related to violent crime, non-IPV calls. Middle Eastern individuals, relative to white individuals, were overrepresented in use of force incidents related to persons in crisis, violent crime, wellness and safety checks, as well as calls related to other federal and provincial statutes. Additionally, in the report submitted, we examined the use of force incidents where weapons were perceived versus not. What we observed was that Indigenous and Latino individuals, relative to white individuals, were overrepresented in use of force incidents where no weapon was perceived. Black, Middle Eastern, and South Asian individuals, again, relative to white individuals, were overrepresented in incidents where firearms were perceived as present. So moving forward, our enforcement action benchmarking strategy has continued to allow us to dig deeper into the data to find flags for further investigation. But we must move forward, asking questions about how our policy, practice, and procedures may contribute to this overrepresentation. To do this year we will be recruiting a community council to help imbue this work with our community's lived experiences and to ask questions relevant to their concerns. Additionally, there will continue to be training on the Ontario Public Police Interactions Training Aid, which centers de-escalation in all police public interactions. Thank you so much, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Okay. Thank you for the report. It was instructive. Any questions? I'm going to check on the screen for, I know we've got Karen and Sandy on the line. Don't see anything there. Anyone from the board here? Any questions, comments? If not, thank you so. Oh, wait a minute. I think Karen.
Trying to figure out how to get off mute. Can you just talk a little bit more about the community group that's going to help interpret these? I think that's a really interesting innovation.
Yeah, for sure. So we're excited to, as the next step of our community engagement strategy, to actually start recruiting members of our community who show interest in race and identity-based data and other community relevant topics to come together to work collaboratively with us and our academic partners, Dr. Les Jacobs and Lauren Foster, to identifying key questions that demand further attention, as well as identifying potential solutions that are sort of community relevant and community led. We've seen other services also recruit community councils, and so we're very excited to do the same in following best practice within the space.
That's very exciting. And I'm assuming that would be part of the quarterly reporting and annual reporting.
Absolutely. As soon as the council is recruited and as soon as those discussions become like really relevant, we can definitely include that within the reporting.
Thank you.
Chief, go ahead.
Thanks for the question, Chair Redmond. I'll just complement that is to say this was something during our community consultation last year that was advertised and promoted, and not only will we be adopting it locally as a best practice, but also it's a recommendation through the phase 2 at the Ontario Association of Chiefs level for race and identity-based data. And we're very proud to be active leaders carrying forward that work on behalf of all of our policing partners. So it will be helpful to have the community inform our practices moving forward. And certainly it's an essential part of informing the work that we're doing together. Thanks.
Okay, don't see any other hands. Thank you for the report. Moving on, 11.4 Innovation and Modernization Unit Update, Inspector Kent, Chief, or is this Deputy French?
I think we might have missed search of person.
Oh, bygone, sorry. So Hassan's on for search of persons in custody annual report. My apologies. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
None taken. I understand that you're sick of me. All right.
And I'll briefly introduce this one as well. So this is our annual commitments stemming from the 2020 internal audit from the Ontario Independent Police Review Director. And as such, we've made a commitment to report annually on our search of persons data, which includes race and identity-based data analysis as well, again, with our commitment to transparency and accountability to the board and the community. So again, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Hassan Siddiqui to walk us through this report.
Thank you again, everybody, for the opportunity to chat with you today. I will count myself as the luckier of us too, that I get the honor to chat to you twice about this work. So we're going to start with a little bit of background. Each person when entering into a WRPS custodial facility is searched for contraband, including evidence, tools to escape custody, or any object that could cause injury either to themselves or others, including our officers. There are 4 levels of search, and any search beyond the first search must be deemed reasonable and authorized by the officer in charge of the prisoner management facility or a patrol supervisor. And the primary reason for searches is safety concerns. A first search involves patting down of the person, emptying and searching pockets, as well as the removal or rearrangement of clothing that does not expose the person's undergarments or areas of the body that would normally be covered by undergarments. This may include the checking of personal possessions. An intake search is more comprehensive than a first search and is done in a more controlled environment. Often there's the use of a wand to detect items, and there's an opportunity for the person to indicate the items that the wand may have detected. During a strip search level 1, the person removes their own clothing, one piece of clothing at a time, down to the undergarments, and members inspect the article of clothing in a methodical manner. The person shall be allowed to replace each article of clothing immediately after inspection, unless doing so would compromise the safety or integrity of the search. Lastly, in a strip search level 2, the person will remove their own clothing, one piece of clothing at a time, including their undergarments, and members will inspect the article of clothing in a methodical manner. Again, the person shall be allowed to replace each article of clothing immediately after inspection, unless doing so would compromise the safety or integrity of the search. In 2024, there were 347,110 police occurrences. These occurrences resulted in 15,516 arrests, which in turn led to 4,252 searches. Consistent with what has been observed in both 2022 and 2023, the most common search type in 2024 was intake searches, which comprised 84% of all searches. In 2024, strip search level 1 and level 2 combined to comprise 13% of all searches. However, it's important to note that each search does not necessarily equal a new person. In 2024, 602 individuals came into custody multiple times. These individuals made up 18% of all individuals searched, but 35% of all searches. So for brevity, this presentation will present two examples of enforcement action benchmarking. This analytic focus is again to help us identify the drivers of overrepresentation. The hope is that by engaging in this analytic strategy, we can move towards understanding what aspects of the system of policing, including our policy, procedure, and practice, may account for the observed overrepresentation, so we can further investigate and make changes to address systemic racism wherever it exists. We'll start by talking about gender. The numbers in this graph will reflect percentages. Blue bars here represent 2023 numbers, with lighter bars for women and darker bars for men. Red bars here represent 2024 numbers, again, lighter bars for women and darker bars for men. In 2024, 748 searches were performed on females. 84% of all searches on females were intake searches. So that's the light red bar in the intake category. In 2024, 3,393 searches were performed on males. 87% of all searches on males were intake searches. That would be the dark red bar in the intake category. In 2024, we observed the overrepresentation of females in frisk searches. All these represent few searches overall. While we continue to see the overrepresentation of women in select searches, we have not seen a consistent search type implicated year over year. Now we'll move on to perceived race. The colored bars here represent different racial groups, and the percentages for each type of search for each racial group is presented. To measure overrepresentation, we compare the percentages for each racialized group to the white category, which is represented by the green bar, as recommended by the Ontario data standards. We see an overrepresentation of Middle Eastern individuals in frisk searches. The maroon bar is taller than the green bar. We observe the underrepresentation of most racialized groups in strip search level 2. Here, the green bar is the tallest in the graph. So in 2024, all searches for the first time were recorded on the niche custody module. Throughout the year, the module received numerous changes and updates, either to make reporting easier for our members or to include additional information related to procedural changes. The module remaining consistent throughout 2025 should lead to enhanced data quality. In 2024, WRPS purchased a body scanner to be used at Central Division Cell Block. In 2025, the body scanner will be introduced in a phased approach, replacing select searches where suitable. Also in 2024, we launched our race and identity-based data community engagement strategy. And as mentioned earlier, in 2025, we'll be looking to recruit our community council to integrate community perspectives within our race and identity-based data analytics strategy. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you. Always, again, great information to have. I think Jim has a question.
Yeah, just
Doug.
So just on the last part there with the body scanner, is that like something that's like in the airports, the full body scan? Do you see at the airport, or just if you could talk a little bit more about that?
Thanks, Mr. Schmidt. Yes, when we designed the new Central Division, we looked at best practices across Canada. There's only a few police services within Canada that have adopted this modernized approach. It does not solve all the problems and the complexities related to searches. So we're continuing to work through the policy, the privacy, and the best practices related to that. But to answer your question, it does mirror the body scanner you would see in airports and other transportation entry points and so on. And we're still working through how it'll be best modeled and used in our facility. We are hopeful that it will provide some enhancements to our current practices, but it will not negate the need for much of what we're doing right now because of the issues related to fentanyl, the complexities of some substances to ensure the safety of everyone in our care.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, Doug.
So just to compliment, I'm always impressed by the overwhelming statistics we get.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the analogy a few meetings ago about baseball statistics and how they have statistics and everything. Well, we do also here with regards to police accountability. Accountability is the big issue. And that this clearly outlines it and makes it readable, understandable for the community. And I think it's a very positive way of demonstrating what the service is up to.
I
Thank you.
totally agree. Tony.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I have a question, maybe if you could possibly refresh our minds. When I look at the race-based data, and if I use example, the searches, and we see maybe an overrepresentation of Black versus white in the intake search. How do you take that data and analyze it and then bring it through into some form of process or policy to address, some inadequacy or variance there to address that? On a very high level, you can use that as an example. I'm just trying to see how you get the data and then move it over.
Yeah, so the enforcement action benchmarking strategy has been great for helping us identify these flags of overrepresentation within select police interactions. However, any solution that will be developed will be done in collaboration with that community council. We acknowledge that it is like through collaboration with our community that we will determine best solutions. So while the data does present us with where might be flags for considering overrepresentation, it doesn't necessarily tell us what we need to do to fix it. And that's what we're hoping to do with our community council.
Thank you very much.
Okay, other comments? I don't see Sandy or Karen. Nothing else here. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, I tried to bypass your report. It was very informative and I apologize for that. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to, thank you, son, to 11.4, Innovation Modernization Unit update. And is this still Deputy Fenton?
Yeah, one last time. Good morning again, members of the board. So last year, we presented an annual report on the work of our Innovation and Modernization Unit, and we feel it is important to keep the board updated on the important work this unit is doing in our service to help us ensure that we keep up with the pace of technology in our ever-evolving world. As such, we do intend to bring this to you as an annual update. So I'm just going to turn it over to Inspector Mike Kent, who leads our Innovation and Modernization Unit, who's got a brief PowerPoint to go along with the report before you, just to update you on the work that's going on in that unit. Over to you, Mike.
Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board. Just make sure everybody can see my screen there. Perfect. So as the deputy mentioned, I'm just here to give a brief update on some of the things that we covered off in the Innovation and Modernization Unit over the past year. The IMU, as we call it, is a small project-based team consisting of myself, uniformed sergeant, and two civilian professionals that fill a project coordinator and a project analyst role. So the team's mandate is to leverage new technologies or practices that could improve performance and efficiency to the betterment of our members. So the team formed out of the modernization project that all of you are aware of, brought in a number of Axon technologies to the service. So the first thing that we were working on throughout last year was continuing to implement body-worn camera usage. So back in December of 2022, I'm sure you'll remember the board authorized a permanent deployment of body-worn cameras across the police service in a phased-in approach. So we completed that deployment at the start of 2025. So at the beginning of 2024, we finished rolling out a Central Division, or South Division rather, and now Central Division has been deployed at the start of this year. So now all frontline members are equipped with body-worn cameras, which is about 433 cameras across the service. Along with body-worn cameras, we also implemented in-car cameras. And part of that in-car camera technology is the automated license plate readers. I'm sure you'll recall the automated license plate readers are able to identify license plates of vehicles that are driving around in our community. And the technology can automatically run those plates that it identifies against a hot list that includes vehicles like stolen vehicles or suspended drivers, those sorts of things. Those hot lists are provincial hot lists that are pushed out to the police service on a daily basis. So over the course of the last year, we also developed an internal hot list for our members. The internal hot list allows our investigators to manually add plates to an internal hot list. And that has a couple of benefits. One, it allows us to add vehicles that are subjects of an investigation that's active and ongoing. Investigators can put on those plates that wouldn't normally be on the provincial hot list in order to aid their investigations. And on top of just the daily update that we receive from the province, if we have more high priority plates that need to go onto our hot list immediately, for example, an Amber Alert or a missing person, those plates can be added immediately instead of waiting until the next day when the provincial hot list updates. We're also part of a community of practice across the province that shares internal hot lists. And so if there's a missing person or an Amber Alert in a neighboring police service, Toronto, for example, they can send a message to us. It's coordinated through the OPP, asking us to add a hot list or add a plate to our hot list. So immediately we'll benefit from the ability to easily locate those vehicles if they come to our region. Axon Capture is another new technology that we've rolled out across the service. It's something that we've been piloting for some time down in the South Division. Axon Capture is an application that is added to all of our frontline members' mobile phones. And it's just a tool that allows members to take photographs or take audio or video statements using their service-issued smartphone. It really provides a very seamless transition to get evidence from the front line and from an officer's device right into our digital evidence management system. It allows us to keep constant track of where that evidence is, audit trails to ensure that there's no tampering of the evidence or loss of evidence or anything along those lines. So we ran a very successful pilot through South Division, and we ran a small pilot in our investigative services division, and now we've deployed it across the service to all of our frontline members and investigators. Axon Draft 1 is another piece of technology that the team looked at this past fall. Draft 1 is a tool that uses generative AI technology in order to write draft occurrence reports for police officers. The technology combines the body-worn camera technology and automated transcription to write these reports. So when an officer is in the field and reports an interaction, the Axon technology automatically creates a transcript and then would write a report based on the details of that transcript. The team ran a small proof of concept in a test environment using the technology. Has a lot of promise and potential, and I think it's going to be something that we're going to continue to look at in the future. But we found that this time that the technology is not a right fit for our service. So after our proof of concept, we ended up stopping what we're doing with Draft 1, but we intend to come back and take a look at it again in the future. We gave Axon a bunch of feedback about what our experience was with the product. They were very receptive, and we just received some release notes this morning about changes that they've made to the product that integrated some of the suggestions we've made. So we're looking forward to continue to examine that. And the big project that is really taking most of our time right now is our Enox project. So as of today, as you can see in the picture of the slide there, every police officer that's out on the road takes written notes using pen and paper to record things like their observations in the field, locations they attend, the activities that they participate in. And those notebooks are something that an officer spends a great deal of their time filling on a daily basis. So our team is exploring transitioning from a paper-based notebook to an electronic notebook that would be just run off of an officer's smartphone. We've completed an RFP process and selected a vendor for a pilot, and we're looking forward to going ahead with the pilot throughout the rest of this year. We find that there's going to be a lot of efficiencies that are potentially there as far as taking notes electronically instead of pen and paper, and a lot of workflow efficiencies as well. So right now, when an officer takes notes that are required for a criminal prosecution or even for a provincial prosecution or a ticket, for example, the officer needs to scan that notebook back at the division using like a photocopier scanner, and then there's a workflow to get those notes into our records management system, and it's close to the Crown. So a lot of work goes into just getting those paper notes into an electronic format and out to the courts. So hoping to find a lot of efficiencies there. Also around things like storage of notebooks. We keep notebooks for a number of years, a whole lot of years, and keeping those notebooks stored comes at a cost as well. So obviously storing them electronically would be much more cost effective. So we're looking forward to moving ahead with that project as well. And finally, the AI steering committee. So I chair the steering committee for the service. It's a committee that meets monthly and involves representation from across this, all areas of the service. And we're trying to develop some subject matter expertise within the service around artificial intelligence. Obviously, it's an area that's very much at the forefront of a lot of people's minds these days, and technology that I think we are going to have to utilize to stay ahead in this world. So we are looking at that technology, looking at what sort of advantages we could get out of any piece of technology, while also weighing the risks, thinking about things like bias and concerns around privacy and all of those pieces that are very much at the front of people's minds. So we want to make sure that we consider all those things before we go ahead with any piece of technology that includes any element of artificial intelligence. So the committee is looking at those things and then making recommendations to our ELT about whether or not we think a given piece of technology would be appropriate for the service to use. And that's all for me, unless there's any questions.
Just one comment. It's great. The e-notes is interesting. Doctors are trying to stop using faxes, and police are trying not to use paper anymore. That's a welcome development, I'm sure. Douglas first.
Well, Mr. Chair, I was going to comment on the same thing. I think one of the most onerous things for officers, from what I've heard, is in fact this note taking after shift, during shift, all of that. Anything we can do to modify that or to ameliorate it would be terrific. I think it's a great move forward. Happen to have a relative who complains bitterly about it.
Doctors do. Tony, sorry, Karen Cordero.
Yeah, again, I'll just add my recognition to the use of technology to find effectiveness and streamline communication such that you end up with a pretty recognizable difference in just-in-time management on the ground. Question, in terms of AI, have you looked at any opportunities to perhaps use the experience of the local universities in terms of the work group and committee that you have underway?
Certainly. So right now, our committee is made up of all internal members, but we've had discussions around forming subcommittees at any time that we're looking at a given piece of technology and bringing in the expertise that might be able to provide a better lens and perspective than we have internally.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if I may, Mr. Chair, is there an opportunity perhaps to add that expertise into visioning and kind of developing priorities for the service in terms of evaluating and incorporating AI?
I think our friends at Communitech too is another opportunity aside from the universities, because that's where the intersection of business practices and technology and bringing it together. Did you have another comment, or I think the chief's got his hand up too?
Yeah, I don't.
Thanks. I just wanted to compliment Inspector Kent's remark there that we are continuing to grow that local network, but we're also looking not to duplicate or replicate work that needs to also happen at a provincial, national, and international level. So those linkages are happening with Ontario Association of Chiefs, Canadian Association of Chiefs, and beyond. So we have an amazing backyard here in Waterloo region and expertise that can help us to advance. We want to ensure that we're operating together as a sector and being informed by the brightest minds and ideas for now and in the future as well. So great commentary, and you're on the ball guiding us there.
I don't see seeing your Karen with your hand up. One thing, just on the draft one, and it's good to know that you kind of go through that. Inspector can kind of say, we looked at it and it's not ready for prime time. That's not, in fact, hearing that a lot of business people are trying to leverage AI, and it is fast evolving. There's a lot of, I mean, the fact that you're not doing it now, but keeping your eyes open, and the vendor that you worked with is already making modifications. Those things are happening at warp speed, and it wouldn't surprise me that a year from now, the next report is we should do this because we've got something that is more applicable and more user friendly for the purposes that you described. So, you know, like technology, always it's evolutionary, but it's happened quickly. So that's an interesting report. Okay, I don't see any no more comments. Thank you so much for the report. It's very helpful.
Yeah, the reports are really good. I
Excellent.
appreciate them.
Okay, we're on to 11.5, community safety and well-being, annual hate motivated crime report. I think we've got Geraldine. I don't know, Chief, do you or who's starting off?
Yeah, just very briefly, thank you. So Geraldine Stafford, our manager of equity, diversity, inclusion, will provide an overview of our hate crime data, current state, and looking forward as well. And this is our community safety well-being plan feature of the month, and it coincides with some regular reporting. And kudos to our team in strategic services and Geraldine's team as well. StatsCan hate crime data is a cycle behind, and we want to always instill that to the public, but also bring forward our most current data as well. So Geraldine will walk us through that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Good morning, Chair McLean. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, I think we're good. Everybody can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Again, thank you, Chief. Good morning, Chair McLean and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this presentation to you. This topic is one that I know community and the service has marked interest in. So as part of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, combating hate was identified as a regional priority. The current presentation reports on the annual hate-motivated and crime statistics. This data will be used to support and drive forward initiatives within the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. The numbers in this report refer to police-reported hate-motivated crime, which are criminal offenses that are deemed to be motivated by hate. In 2024, there were 237 hate-motivated crimes. That's 132 fewer than the year before. This is the first year-over-year decrease in hate-motivated crimes since at least 2019. However, since 2019, hate-motivated crimes have on average increased by 43 hate-motivated crimes per year. The majority of hate-motivated crimes in 2024 were violent. Violent crimes made up a greater representation of hate-motivated crime in 2024 versus 2023, largely due to the decrease in non-violent hate-motivated crime. Whenever a hate-motivated crime occurs, a constable in EDI identifies the protective ground impacted and the specific group. In 2024, hate-motivated crimes most often targeted on the basis of race, followed by religion, and then sexual orientation. Looking within each protected grounds, we can see which groups are the most impacted. 72% of religion-based hate-motivated crime targeted Jewish individuals. 41% of race-based hate-motivated crimes targeted Black individuals. 97% of hate-motivated crime on the basis of sexual orientation targeted the 2S LGBTQIA community in general. Hate continues to be a priority at WRPS, and this is reflected in our response. Frontline Patrol responds to all hate-motivated occurrences. Further investigative work is done by our investigative services and the Hate Crime Extremist Investigative Team. That's HICIT. So HICIT is a collaboration of 21 police services across Ontario, which coordinates intelligence gathering and provides specialized support on investigations into hate crime. Additionally, the EDI unit ensures that no victim of hate is left behind. All victims receive support and can be redirected to either victim services or one of our other community partners so they receive trauma-informed support. EDI is also responsible for delivering community messaging on hate and tracking statistics. We also recognize that at times, the offenders themselves do require mental health supports in response. Finally, we continue to innovate in our response to hate. In 2023, we received the Frontline Policing Grant to generate novel methods of responding to hate-motivated crime. We have also leveraged technology to centralize hate reporting internally and help educate on hate throughout the region. Those innovations are embedded within the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan in order to maximize impact. We are also excited to announce that WRPS is hosting its first annual Hate Crime Conference. The conference will run from April 14th to 16th. The first 2 days of the conference, the 14th and 15th, will be designed for police services, and the final day on April 16th will be a community-focused conference. We encourage members of the board or those watching online, any community member to register for the Community Focus Day on April 16th. The poster is up and there's a QR code. So if anybody's interested, we really encourage community. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Well, thank you so much for the report, Geraldine. Great work, good for us to know. Also demonstrates how much more work we have to do as a community, for sure. Questions for the board? Comments? Just looking up there. Sandy or Karen? Nothing? Karen Quigley House.
Just one observation. We've got a very encouraging trend there, and I think it's important to continue to support this really good work that's being done, so that we can continue that trend in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the report. That's very good.
Okay. Don't see any other hands. Thanks so much, Geraldine, and we'll look forward to the next report. Hopefully, a positive trend continues.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay. I think we're on to monthly chief of police reports. Chief, over to you. Or I missed something. Looks like you're going to tell me I missed something in the agenda. No.
No, thanks, Chair McLean. Very pleased to provide the monthly chief of police report looking back at the past month. And we've been busy with our crime suppression efforts on several fronts, and has been noted before, our response to gun violence and shooting incidents is top of mind and top priority for our team. So just noting a shooting investigation that occurred on March 1st in the city of Kitchener. Numerous gunshots were volleyed into a home in the Ottawa Street and Trustler Road area of Kitchener. A vehicle was seen fleeing from the house, and we're on the lookout for a silver two-door car that was seen at the time of the shooting. Our general investigations unit will continue to investigate this occurrence. Also, a few days later on March 5th, there was a shooting incident that occurred where a male was struck with receiving gunshot wound injuries and transported to hospital with serious but not life-threatening injuries. This is also believed to be a targeted incident, and our major crime unit and other crime suppression teams are continuing to investigate. Along these lines, noting some proactive work, a long-standing investigation by members of the Direct Action Response Team and also the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act work that we're committed to resulted in the completion of a search warrant at a Cambridge residence where we recovered a loaded handgun, crossbow, a kilogram of fentanyl, as well as cocaine and other prescription medications. 2 individuals were arrested. One from our region and one from outside the region, noting the jurisdictional connections to much of our work to boundaries outside of Waterloo region. Along another vein, charges related to a child exploitation enforcement initiative were realized in Waterloo region, but also this is a national and provincial initiative called Project Steel, where nationwide this resulted in the identification of 31 victims related to internet child exploitation. 20 children were safeguarded, 40 individuals were arrested, leading to over 150 charges, and the seizure of well over 600 electronic devices. Locally, our members between several days in February carried out 5 search warrants, seizing 31 devices, arresting 3 males and the laying of 18 criminal charges. So you will hear more from our service as the year progresses in relation to our commitment to internet child exploitation enforcement and our collaborative work across the province. Turning to St. Patrick's Day, this community is well aware of our considerable operational deployment over the course of 4 days, Friday night into a Monday late operational period. We are just providing our public reporting now on the data from a WRPS standpoint, along with our community partners. We have noted today in the media that there were over 250 charges and 17 arrests issued by WRPS. And although there were no major injuries, considerable acts of violence, the disruption was considerable. The risk, cost, and strain on our emergency and community resources was considerable. So we'll have a fulsome report to the board in April as we continue to analyze and evaluate the impacts and our plans moving forward. So look forward to sharing that in the future. Proud of our members and our community partners that have managed a considerable operational period. Looking at road safety, we have made a number of considerable proactive and enforcement initiatives throughout the course of February, noted on the screen. And just as one example of our commitment to Fatal 4 education, awareness, and enforcement, on one day in March, on March 6th, members of our Crime Suppression Analysis and Response Unit in Kitchener were out engaging with the public, resulting in a number of interactions related to the Fatal 4 offenses, namely impaired driving, speeding and aggressive driving, seatbelt use, and distracted driving. Also, we're very pleased to celebrate the Polar Plunge at the turn of the month. So members from the community and across our service came out to take that cold plunge, and we're very proud to have raised over $36,000 in support of the Special Olympics, and really proud of our community rallying around that great cause. Also, we had a really incredible initiative with members of Reception House and a partnership with Chicopee Tube Park that brought together our members with newcomers to Canada and to Waterloo region to share in some great winter fun. And that relationship is one that's been long-standing. We look forward to that partnership moving forward. Also, internally, we recognize International Women's Day and the strength and resilience of our women who drive this organization and our community in so many ways. And also, similarly, we recognize Pink Shirt Day, taking a stand against bullying and really rallying around kindness and compassion as our way forward. Looking at our very busy month of February and into March, we know that we'll continue with our education, engagement, and celebration efforts and occasions with the community. So really happy to recognize the hard work of our members and the positive support we have instilled with our community. Look forward to that moving forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief. You had a quiet month, I guess. There was nothing happening in February and March yet. Any comments, questions from the board? I want to touch on St. Paddy's Day. This is something that before being on the board, I've dealt with since my time as a city councilor in Waterloo, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse. It's very troubling when we saw some videos, some time-lapse video of around 2 o'clock on Saturday. I think we saw some video and that literally thousands and thousands that poured onto, I think it's Marshall Street that we saw. Really, really troubling, very disappointing that students decided that their social time is more important than public safety. And so I find that disappointing. I do want to say, first and foremost, this is a safety issue. It always has been. And when you see the number of people that congregate, not only their own safety, but putting at risk other people in the community is just, it's a disgrace. That's the way I would describe it. Surely, when we have something like that, it's not sanctioned, it's not appropriately safety, protocols are in place. Someone will get injured or hurt or killed, and then everyone's going to point fingers. And so we need to continue to, move forward to say this is unacceptable in our community. It doesn't happen in every university town. It seems to happen in Kingston and here. And it's just something that we have to deal with. I do commend the police, the city of Waterloo for bringing the injunction in. I think we will, I look, on behalf of myself, I'm looking forward to seeing the full report, seeing how that helped, how we can modify it, how we can use that in the future. But the city of Waterloo deserves credit for bringing that as one new tool. The bylaw officers that were trying to implement that, the police that had to manage what is in some ways an unmanageable group of people. So that's, I think that's all to the good. And again, that court injunction, I think is City of Waterloo deserves credit for that, and I hope we can build on it. A number of, what I think we need moving forward, and we talked about this last year around this time, is we need every partner, whether it's public safety, whether it's bylaw, city, the universities, everyone needs to step to the plate and be looking at new things. People have called me up unsolicited with ideas already, such as, why not schedule exams during St. Patty's Day? Why not have reading week during St. Patty's Day? Have a sanctioned event, which we've looked at. Others have said, well, if they want to have a party and it's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, charge them on their student fees, and then we can just outright pay to manage and have something that is manageable. Not advocating any of those, I'm just saying the public is asking those questions, and rightfully so. Ultimately, I guess, Chief, we should come back to the report, throwing up our hands and saying, well, they're going to come out anywhere is not an answer. It's not one that I know you find acceptable. I don't think it's something that we find acceptable, nor the community. So I look forward to seeing that report and how we can support the work that you're doing and our other community partners, because having whatever the number ends up being look like a lot, maybe in the tens of thousands, it's just unacceptable. And we have to do everything we can to from our position, along with other partners in the community, because it just can't go on. So we'll leave it till next month. From my perspective, Karen.
I think what I've heard from the community is repeatedly, all residents of the region and city of Waterloo should be held to the same standard of behavior. So.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get along away with anything remotely close to this if you were on a street party in Cambridge or Waterloo or Kitchener or anywhere else. And students don't deserve a separate standard than the rest of the community. So in any event, thank you for your report, Chief. Is there anything else, folks? Seeing none? Okay. Thank you, Chief. I think we'll finish off. New business, there is none. Future agenda items, none. Information items. Just as a note, Chief and myself will be available for media after we adjourn. And I think we're at that point. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Jim, seconded by Doug. All those in favor?